Well, we have reached the second ideal, and this is a courtship period reflection, and it's titled A Springtime Visit. Let's read verse number 8. Listen, my beloved, behold, he is coming, climbing on the mountains, leaping on the hills. The second ideal contains two reflections, which occurs during the time of courtship. Chronologically, these events occur before those of the first idyll. The first idyll spoke of the marriage feast, the wedding night, and the second idyll explains how it all came about. In the fourth reflection, Shulamit thinks back on her courtship days and remembers a springtime visit to her home in Galilee by Solomon. This reflection begins with Shulamit describing Solomon's coming. She appears to hear the voice of her beloved who is calling for her as he is approaching. The content of that call will be described in verses 10 through 14. Solomon is stating his desire to see the one he loves after a long winter's separation. Let's read verse 9. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, he is standing behind our wall. He is looking through the windows. He is peering through the lattice. Solomon is seen as springing and bounding with speed and eagerness to get to Shulamit's home. He is seen by Shulamit as coming with the speed of a gazelle seeking his unforgotten one. Gazelles and young stags climb mountains and leap over hills with ease and grace, and so does Solomon, her beloved. The word wall refers to the wall of the house itself rather than the outer wall surrounding the house. The picture then is that Shulamit is within the house. Solomon, having leaped and bounded over the hills, now stands behind the wall outside and looks in through the windows. So Solomon is trying to see his love first by looking through one window, then others, so that he might see Shulamit. Once having seen her, he feasts his eyes on her and then fixes, peering them on her to reflect and to meditate over her. Verses 10 and 11, my beloved responded and said to me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come along. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. Shulamit, having described Solomon's anxious approach to her home, now describes the words with which he called her. In verse 10, Shulamit sees Solomon and he invites her to enjoy the spring with him. He calls her to rise from her stupor and go out with him. Though Solomon has come north to take care of his fields in Galilee, he desires to be with her for now and let his business lay. Solomon points to the evidence that winter is past. He says the rain is over and gone. Spring has arrived. That may be the last slide. Nope, we got verse 12, 13. The flowers have already appeared in the land. The time has arrived for pruning the vines, and the voice of the turtledove has been heard in our land. The fig tree has ripened its figs, and the vines in blossom have given forth their fragrance. Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come along. In verses 12 through 13, Solomon provides more evidence that spring has arrived. The flowers have already appeared. The time has arrived for pruning the vines. The voice of the turtledove has been heard. The fig tree has ripened its figs, and the vines and blossoms have given forth their fragrance. Having described the coming of spring, Solomon again pleads Shulamit to arise from the winter's night. He invites her to go and walk with him through the spring. Solomon and Shulamit are now ready for the fruition of their mutual love because the long winter's separation did not chill their love for one another. Verse 14. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret place of the steep pathway, let me see your form, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your form is lovely. Solomon's pleading concludes with verse 14. For Shulamit to remain in the house would be like a dove that hides in the clefts of the rocks and other secret places of the steep pathway, thereby making itself inaccessible. Solomon pleads with Shulamit to come out of her hiding place and make herself accessible to him. He wants to see her form and beauty because of its beauty. He wants to hear her voice because of its sweetness. And that brings us to verse 15. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that are ruining the vineyards while our vineyards are in blossom. In response to Solomon's call, Shulamit comes out and they begin to take a walk into the springtime. As they walk, Shulamit notices the problems caused by little foxes in the vineyards. In verse 15, this fact begins to suggest to Shulamit the necessity of working out little problems that would hinder love or create tension later. Little foxes burrow holes through the earth, and this loosens the soil so that growth and prosperity of the vine suffers. Foxes were proverbial destroyers and appear as such in Nehemiah 4:3, Lamentations 15:18, and Ezekiel 14:4. In this context, these foxes are all great and little enemies which threaten, gnaw at, and destroy love in blossom before it ripens into full enjoyment. Thus Shulamit states that their love, like the vineyards, is indeed in blossom, but first she wishes everything removed or rendered harmless that would destroy the peace of love. Hence, catch the foxes. Verse 16, my beloved is mine, and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies. What are these foxes Shulamit has referred to? This can be deduced from the next two verses, verse 16 and 17. Verse 16, she declares that each belongs to the other. I am yours, and you are mine. The object of her love is Solomon, the shepherd who has many holdings in land and sheep near her country home. He has business that must be attended to. But she is fully confident of their love remaining true to each other. Shulamit then states, he pastures his flock among the lilies. She pictures Solomon as a shepherd who during the day is feeding his flock and so is away from her. He has business to attend to, and unless she allows him to attend to it, it will remain on his mind while he is spending time with her. So she sends him away to finish his duty and allows him to do his work rather than selfishly hanging on to him. So one of these little foxes has been caught. Verse 17, until the cool of the day when the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of Bether. But when Solomon returns, he is to do it with speed and anxiousness, as he had in coming to her earlier. He is to skip and bounce over the mountains that separate Solomon from Shulamit. The peaks are to be a base from which he is to spring from one to another until he arrives to her again. They will spend time together, as he promised her. She will not claim him for herself until he has accomplished all his work. But when he returns to her in the evening, she will rejoice if he becomes her guide through the newborn spring. By letting him complete his work and thus clear it from his mind, she catches one little fox and renders it harmless.